Today, we're going to talk about what might just be the most overlooked secret in all of fitness. We're talking about the surprising, almost unbelievable power of something called Zone 2 training. It all starts with this one kind of radical idea, especially in our culture of no pain, no gain. The simple truth is, most of us, we're actually exercising too hard. So that leads to a pretty wild question, right? What if the real secret to getting faster, stronger, and maybe even living longer was to actually take it easier? Now, look, this isn't just some wild theory. This is exactly how the pros do it. The top endurance athletes in the world, they live by what's called the 80-20 rule. A whopping 80% of their training time is low intensity. That's our zone 2. And only about 20% is that really hard, high-intensity stuff. This whole polarized approach, well, it's the secret sauce to their incredible results.
Okay, so how on earth does going slower make you faster? Let's get into the science of it, because you're essentially building a better engine inside your body. And I promise it's way simpler and cooler than it sounds.
It really all comes down to these little things called mitochondria. You probably remember that name from high school biology, right? They're the powerhouses of your cells. And that's not just a cute nickname. They are literally the tiny engines inside your muscles that take fuel, like fat and carbs, and turn it into energy. And just look at the difference here. On the left, you've got the mitochondrial density of someone who's pretty sedentary. On the right, someone who trains in zone 2. The difference isn't just noticeable, it's massive. You are literally building a bigger, better cellular engine. So here's the key takeaway. If you want to build more of these powerhouses and make the ones you already have work way better, Zone 2 training is the single most powerful way to do it. Nothing else even comes close. All right, so that's the why. You're probably thinking, okay, I'm sold, but how do I actually find my Zone 2? Let's go over 2 super simple ways you can get started, like today. No fancy lab equipment needed.
Okay, method number 1 is the easiest, and it's my personal favorite. It's called the talk test. Your zone 2 is that effort level where you can hold a conversation and speak in full sentences. But you couldn't really sing your favorite song. If you're gasping for air, you're going too hard. If you could chat effortlessly for hours, you're probably going a little too easy. It's that simple.
Now, if you want some actual numbers to work with, there's a simple formula. First, let's get a rough estimate of your max heart rate. You just take the number 208 and subtract 0.7 times your age. Got that number? Okay, now your zone 2 range is just 60 to 70% of that number. That gives you a nice little target to aim for on your watch. And here's a chart that gives you a quick idea of what that looks like. You can see for a 35-year-old, we're talking a heart rate of around 113 to 132 beats per minute. Now, for most people, that feels surprisingly slow. And that's a really, really important point we need to talk about. All right, let's put it all together. Let's walk through your very first Zone 2 workout, what to do, and maybe more importantly, what you should expect to feel.
The structure couldn't be simpler. You do a nice, easy 5 to 10 minute warm-up. Think Zone 1, very light. Then the main event. For your first session, just aim for 20 to 30 minutes right there in your Zone 2. Then finish up with a 5 to 10 minute cooldown. That's it. That's the whole workout.
But here comes the big reality check, and this is where almost everybody messes up. When you do this right, it is going to feel embarrassingly slow. I'm serious, you might feel like you're jogging slower than people are walking. And that is not a sign you're doing it wrong. That is the entire point. So you have to reframe that feeling. That slowness, it's not a weakness, it's data. It's your body telling you that your aerobic engine is underdeveloped. And you know what that means? It means you've found your single biggest opportunity for improvement. So you got to embrace the slow. Because I promise you, if you stick with it, your speed at that same low heart rate will get faster. Guaranteed. This whole thing is so much bigger than just getting faster for your next race. Zone 2 training is honestly one of the best investments you can possibly make in your future health. It's the ultimate longevity tool. To really get why, we have to talk about something called VO2 max. The easiest way to think about it is your aerobic horsepower. It's the max amount of oxygen your body can actually use when you're going all out. And it's pretty much considered the single best way to measure your cardiorespiratory fitness. And don't just take my word for it. Dr. Peter Attia, who's the huge name in longevity medicine, he says that VO2 max is the most powerful modifiable predictor of longevity that we have. And building your aerobic base with Zone 2 is the most direct way to crank that number up.
And the evidence for this is absolutely rock solid. There was a huge study at the Cleveland Clinic with over 120,000 people that found a direct link. The higher your VO2 max, the lower your risk of dying from, well, anything. Get this, the benefit was about the same as the risk reduction you get from quitting smoking. And they found no upper limit. Being more fit just kept being better.
So just how big of a deal is this? The group with the highest fitness, the top 2.5%, had the most jaw-dropping reduction in their risk of dying. That is the kind of health and resilience you build on a massive aerobic foundation, and it all starts with Zone 2.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about on your next workout. Are you training for the next 6 months, or are you training for the next 60 years? Because Zone 2? Well, that's how you play the long game.